I can't be the only one who periodically just watches Rayquaza beat the ever-living piss out of Deoxys, right? It's no secret that I love dragons, and as a kid who relentlessly played Pokemon Emerald because of Rayquaza being the box legendary, he became my favorite Pokemon. So imagine my joy at a whole freaking movie where Rayquaza got to defend me and every other human from alien invaders. I was entranced. Though defend, I guess, is the wrong word. Rayquaza was a menace. He showed Deoxys no mercy. Literally no place on Earth was safe from his unending wrath. Rayquaza was unambiguously bloodlusted. And it was only through re-watching these scenes again recently have I realized that Bloodlust not only plays a huge part in contemporary storytelling, but is actually far more complicated and nuanced than many of us might think. If you are new here, my name is Alex. I've been a novel and script editor for almost 10 years now, and there is nothing more that I love than breaking down and geeking out about writing. If you like what you hear today, head on over to my website to hire me on for your written work as an editor. I offer coaching sessions, ghostwriting, proofreading, and developmental edits. And if you like reading yourself, check out my 5 fantasy books available on my website. I actually have an entire channel just dedicated to the lore and background of my books, where I talk about my inspirations such as Bleach, Avatar, and God of War. And I pair all of my lore with beautiful handmade art from my wonderful creative team. Even though I only started selling a few months ago, I'm already at just under 100 sales, but my goal is 3,000, which is less than 1% of the total subscribers on this channel. I price my books pretty cheap because I don't really care about making money. I care about sharing my stories with you guys, and every dollar I earn gets reinvested back into this channel for more art, more books, and more videos. I'd be insanely grateful if you guys could help me out to get to that 3,000 sale number, so I'll put a link for everything below so you can head on over. But as for this video, let's dive back into Bloodlust and what it even means in storytelling. Bloodlust, in a general narrative view, is the single-minded focus on violence that's not motivated by reason, logic, or resources. Bloodlust typically cannot be negotiated with. Bloodlust can only be escaped, defeated, or exhausted. So why is Bloodlust used in storytelling, and why do we find it so interesting? Well, that comes down to its narrative purpose. The major thematic use of Bloodlust is to show primal existential danger. This is most often showcased through the killing intent of some predator, most famously done by Jaws. In fact, Jaws was so successful that sharks have become the poster child for bloodlusted adversaries in contemporary fiction. Bloodlust is meant to encapsulate or even be a heightened version of the mortal danger that prey can feel because of predators. In the wild, prey cannot hope to reason with or persuade their predators, and it's interesting to us as consumers of fiction because we don't really feel mortal danger anymore. It's a side of our existence that we don't really interact with or investigate. The closest thing that we have is simulated danger like roller coasters and skydiving. But somewhere deep in our brains is still that lizard meat that fears predators and being hunted. This part of our mentality is so central to our minds that we'll make up whole stories even beyond traditional prey and hunter. Aside from animals, machines are often put into this category. We wouldn't necessarily think of them as such, but Terminators are bloodlusted. Even aliens can be bloodlusted. In almost every circumstance, bloodlust used in this manner is meant to be the supreme obstacle to show the superiority of humanity. Bloodlusted predators are meant to be the ultimate hurdle in order to showcase the indomitable resiliency and ingenuity of the human spirit. In many cases, the bloodlusted predators are far stronger, faster, and of course, more single-mindedly ferocious. But the thing that they do not possess is the community, reasoning, and clear-minded thinking that humans do. In fact, it is often these human social elements that result in the defeat or downfall of the bloodlusted character. However, that is the most baseline explanation of bloodlusted narratives. There are many more nuanced ways that it's portrayed, and that's when it comes to bloodlust in humans. As we talked about, bloodlust narratively is often meant to be an analogy for the animalistic, thoughtless, instinctual calls to violence. Stories where humans or human-like beings are bloodlusted therefore often seek to make a commentary on the internal tug-of-war happening between humanity and the latent animal nature within a person. We can refer to this struggle as human versus primal. On the human side is the understanding of mercy, forgiveness, nuance, and sacrifice, even if those things are painful. And on the primal side is self-indulgence, emotion, and power, a complete surrender to the id and a rejection of the deference that makes us human. In these types of stories, bloodlust specifically can be reasoned with because the conflict becomes a question of which side will prevail, human or primal. This type of struggle could take place over a character's entire arc, or simply be the climactic end cap to an already vast journey. However, where these stories have bloodlust be an active choice for the characters, and therefore a commentary on morality, other genres of fiction change the game a bit. Fantasy and mythology specifically take a different approach. Some fantasy stories reject the premise of the human versus primal struggle altogether. The werewolf mythos is one, and argues that there is no choice to be made at all, but rather a constant duality between man and beast, reason and emotion, that one must live with rather than overcome. The wolf is the manifestation of the id, violent, indiscriminate, willful, and wild, and it is the man that must later answer for and endure the consequences of the animalistic behavior. Other narratives are a bit more nuanced, where bloodlust is decoupled from the human primal struggle and swapped out for another commentary: substance abuse. The most famous fantasy use of this narrative avenue is the literal bloodlust associated with vampires. The blood that vampires ravenously consume has long been thought to be a stand-in for red wine or just alcohol in general, and vampires' need to drink blood at night and sleep during the day mimics aristocratic partygoers wantonly drinking at night and then sleeping the day away, often with light-sensitive hangovers. There are many fictions where vampires will be innately instinctually called to consume blood. This can be understood as the struggle of inherited alcoholism that one might get from a parent. Fantasy narratives concerning bloodlust use the magic of the setting to change bloodlust from just a moral choice to an innate facet of a character's being. The morality then becomes, it is not wrong that I have these urges and bloodlust, it is only wrong to indulge in them. This is why many narratives will have vampires abstaining from human blood as a moral stance, which in turn causes an ever-increasing bloodlust within them that must be eternally managed, lest they sink into a primal killing spree.
Making a big mistake.
No, I'm not. If I can get Elena used to animal blood right out the gate,
You're reaching.
maybe she'll be able to bypass all the things that we went through.
Delusional.
Maybe she actually has a shot at this.
Wrong.
And these fantasy bloodlust narratives don't have to use blood or alcohol as an analogy for substance abuse. Sometimes the substance that the character struggles with is literally violence itself. Characters in this paradigm will often have been unrepentant killers, but the conflict stays the same. Feel, but don't indulge. This will then cause the characters to be restrained, averse to violence, and champion diplomacy. Though, when the time comes, they certainly can become primal again. And yet there are even more ways for bloodlust to be depicted. A method that has gained large popularity in contemporary fiction is mission bloodlust. This is when a character enacts remorseless violence, yet is not engaged in typical bloodlust, but rather has been assigned a mission or a task, and kills everyone impeding them without mercy. Funny enough, this has nothing to do with traditional bloodlust because it does not reflect a primal versus human struggle. In fact, it's the opposite. The bloodlusted character is so in control of themselves, so disciplined, and so single-mindedly focused that the act of killing means nothing to them. This is one of the narrative draws of John Wick. It is a commentary that an eventual mastery of oneself allows you to transcend the traditional restraints and limitations of humanity, for good or for evil. And of course, this is how we get back to our boy, Rayquaza, who actually has a mix of many of the different bloodlust archetypes we have now previously discussed. He is a territorial animal that endlessly hunts Deoxys. However, Rayquaza is one of the few bloodlusted animals in fiction that can be reasoned with. His pursuit of Deoxys is not moral, it's instinctual. And probably the most important factor, much like John Wick, he is one of the few bloodlusted characters we can root for. Rayquaza is trying to protect us, and even though we learn his bloodlust is misplaced, it's still really cool to see an immensely powerful creature trying to defend Earth so relentlessly. Like I said, bloodlust in fiction can be a very straightforward addition to conflict. However, don't rob yourself of storytelling opportunities by thinking bloodlust is always simple. There are tons of opportunities to use it to tell nuanced, engaging stories. I do it in my own books, including my most recent release, Imperious. One of the main characters, Carver, has a reputation for bloodlust, and my POV character, Derek, must navigate around it while transporting Carver as a prisoner across the country. If you like what you heard today, make sure to check out my website for my editing services, my books, and my newest channel for all the handmade art and lore and background for my books. As always, it was a pleasure, and I'll talk to you all again soon.